I was asked over Instagram on DM about how AI is going to change local search engine optimization, how local search engine optimization is going to change over the next couple of years. So these are the questions I was asked. How do you expect the search experience to change for people looking for local services in the next 5 years? From a marketing strategy perspective, how prominent do you expect SEO as we know it to be for local companies? And what are your thoughts on Google as the leading search engine moving into the future? All right, so 3 great questions for this episode. That is what you are getting on episode 345 of The Edward Show. That's where you're getting today. All right, local SEO in the next 5 years. I think something that will change a lot is going to be images. So a friend of mine, I've mentioned him on the podcast before. He's one of the leading people who posts about AI on X. On X, he's just Skirano, Skirano, Pietro Skirano. That's his name. And he has a company called EverArt AI. I've mentioned his company before. It uses generative AI to create images for brands. Right now, he's enterprise only, so I believe his company is charging $1,000 a month. And it creates incredibly realistic images for brands that have real-world products. So for example, a clothing company, their clothing images look great, but it could be a beverage company, it could be a food company, it could be anything where the product is in the real world. I think in the next 5 years, there's going to be companies like EverArt AI that are used heavily for local SEO. There's going to be no excuse for having bad images on a local SEO listing. Now, here's a real question. Are people going to prefer asking a chatbot for recommendations on where to go, places in an area, versus looking on a map? So this is a real prediction of user behavior. I think people will prefer a map, but I think there will be a chatbot component to ask questions. I also think a chatbot will look at images of a listing to see what that listing has, like what its capabilities are. Maybe it's a hardware shop. Somebody wants to know if there's a specific piece of hardware, and then an AI uses machine vision, identifies it in a photo from a place nearby. I think the companies that win with local SEO are going to be the companies that have the most data, the richest text descriptions, and the most images. And some of these images may be created with AI. However, as of now, AI images are pretty easy to detect. They leave a lot of artifacts. For humans, they're harder. For machines, they're easier. It's a total cat and mouse game. I think some local listings will just make AI images for users who are searching for with a more traditional way. And I still think traditional user behavior with maps is not going to change. People want to know where something is located. And they don't want to just hear its address. I think they want to see it on a map. And then there will also be companies that aren't using AI images, or there may be companies that are doing a mix. But really, I think the ones that win are just, and this is the case now, the local SEO companies that win are the ones that have the most data out there. Reviews will continue to be really important, especially from people who have proven accounts. It's pretty easy for Google to tell who is a bot and who is not. So reviews will continue to be important. I believe that backlinks will still be valuable for local SEO. I'm going to give my take here. I don't think local SEO is going to change a great deal. I think something that will change will be there will be more AI chatbots to query to ask whether a place can do so-and-so, or asking an AI chatbot to look at a menu, to scan things so you just don't have to do that yourself. And AI chatbots will be smart enough to do that. I could see that as a capability, but it comes down to what it comes down to now. Best practice is have as much structured data there as you can. And this doesn't have to be technically structured data. I'm not talking about schema. If you're using a normal web page builder, it has that all built in. I'm just saying, like, put a menu. If you're in a place where there's going to be multiple languages, just put a top couple of common languages. But you might not even need to do that in a few years because an AI can just translate it. Put a bunch of images, as many images as you can. Get good reviews. Just have friends leave good reviews. Prompt people when they're in the store to leave a good review. I think that's against the terms of service. People do it anyway. Offer some % off if they leave a good Google review. I think reviews will be so important. I think rich data and descriptions and images will be so important. I do think chatbots will be involved. There will be like a level of querying. Voice will also probably get big, and voice will then choose like the closest restaurant to you or the closest hardware store or whatever that has the highest reviews. But again, that's how it is now. So I really don't think local SEO is going to change a tremendous amount. I think it's just people want to see a map. I mean, look, maps were used thousands of years ago and they're still used today. We still use maps online. It is a normal user behavior. So I don't think that's going to change. I actually really don't think local SEO is going to change that much. How prominent do I expect SEO as we know it to be for local companies? Also, I think it's going to be hugely important. I mean, even now in 2024, no excuse. There is no excuse to not have a local listing up with super rich descriptions. And honestly, it could be if you're a global company, it could be if you're a services-based company, any type of company, the more data you have, the better. I'm saying this and I'm like, oh, I should probably do this for my companies. I was just like completely forgot. But it's especially if you're like a brick and mortar business, oh my gosh. Or if you are a local-based company, yeah, absolutely. It's just so important. I think it's going to continue to be so important. And like I said, it's going to be about how much information you have there. You also might be able to use Reddit or Quora, user-generated content sites. Okay, so I'm going to make a whole episode on this. And actually, I just recorded a video on this. I think it's like really hilarious. So right now, the SEO world is in this complete clusterfuck, complete dumpster fire. On TikTok, I'm not going to say clusterfuck, but that is what it is. That's the word that I want to use. And this is what's happening. I'll make a whole episode on this, but this is what's happening. Google is prioritizing user-generated content platforms like Reddit and Quora in its search engine results pages. They're training off it. OpenAI is training off of it. And SEOs are bemoaning this. They're crying about this. I think 1 year ago, Reddit results were like number 80 in who has the most market share on Google. And now they're 5. So they really gained market share. And SEOs are pissed off. SEOs are like, it's the end of the small personal site. Meanwhile, these same SEOs who are crying on Twitter and crying on X, a bunch of them are Black Hat SEOs. They're still crying. And they are pumping out thousands upon thousands of AI-generated text pages a day where they're not proofreading it. There's no human proofreader. They're just pumping out AI-generated garbage. Thousands and thousands of pages. And Google, ever remaining the black box and unable to admit weakness, isn't explaining, well, look, we don't want to recommend this terrible AI-generated text and we don't want to train off of it. It's not trustworthy. So yeah, we're going to use user-generated content, which is more likely to be trustworthy. It's not perfect, but it's better than the junk that you're putting on your website. And so they're going to prioritize user-generated content because it's just more trustworthy now, because so many of these SEOs who are crying continue to try to game Google with AI-generated text. Google will use its own AI technology to generate answers in the search engine results pages, but it trusts that more than the stuff that these SEOs are putting on their sites. And I've seen it. I've seen what these SEOs are doing, and these pages, a lot of them really are junk. The AI doesn't do a good job. It looks over, it leaves out things. So much goes wrong. I've just seen it so many times. So I think user-generated content sites are going to continue to be big. I actually think that that is going to grow in strategy for SEOs. So that's moving to now my answer, like what is the future of Google as like a leading search engine? Google's still going to be around. OpenAI will be used. I think they're all going to have pretty similar algorithms. My general philosophy has been for the last couple of years, just like optimize for Google. And if you optimize for Google, your pages will perform well on most other search engines. Google has the most thorough algorithm, and all the other search engines are trying to catch up. That is still my opinion. So just it's going to be optimized for whatever the leading AI company is that people are asking questions to. Maybe it will be OpenAI, but it could also be Google with Gemini. It could be something else. I think user-generated content sites will be huge. I still believe that personal sites will be important, but it will be important for bottom-of-funnel keywords, for keywords where people are searching for a solution to a problem. And I've talked about that a lot. I'll talk about that again. Talked about that on yesterday's episode too. But I do think something that local companies could do is they could have more mentions on user-generated content sites. So Reddit, for example, it could be local subreddits. That would be a great example. You have a list of like the top companies for so-and-so in this area. could be a list of 3, it could be a list of 10, and then your company is going to be in there. This is what some companies are doing. They will put up posts just like this. They will buy upvotes to the post. They want engagement because the thing is, with user-generated content, Google, OpenAI, they're not really going to use that data, or they're less likely to use that data if it doesn't have decent engagement. High engagement means it's more trustworthy. Low engagement means it's more likely to be AI-generated text or just garbage. So companies are buying upvotes, they're buying engagement, and then what they're doing is they're changing the posts a day or 2 later. Once the posts aren't on the front page, they're editing the post. That's what's going on right now. Super against the terms of service. That's important to say. That's very against the terms of service. But that's what's going on right now. But AI-generated text, a lot less likely to work on Reddit. And so it's more trustworthy for Google, for OpenAI. I'm going to just give a quick recap of what I said. I don't think local SEO is really going to change. Best thing to do is to have the richest descriptions and photos and reviews that you can. And then you want to have external mentions in user-generated content platforms or normal sites as well. External mentions will be important because there will be people who ask chatbots, and the chatbots are going to pattern match what they see on the internet. And so if they see on the internet, several sites or user-generated content platforms are recommending the same local place, that's what they're going to recommend. And then on Google being the leading search engine in the future, it might not be. It might be OpenAI as a place that people go for questions, but I still think there will be methods of doing recommendation. We could call them recommendation engines, but people are still searching. They're asking for questions. They're asking for recommendations. So maybe recommendation engines would be more similar, but I still think a lot of SEO tasks and responsibilities, finding keywords, targeting keywords, making text that would satisfy someone who comes onto the page, that will still be relevant, and that will still be helpful for chatbots to recommend your business and your brand. All right, anyone listening, let me know what you think about this. Let me know your thoughts on all of these answers. My thoughts may change in the future, but I've been thinking about this for a long time. I've been thinking about this for years, since ChatGPT came out. I even had conversations with Google engineers about it. And they said to me, this was well over a year ago, and they said, yeah, we are extremely worried about the quality of information that we will be able to use in the search engine results pages and the quality of information that we will have to train off of. So it's no wonder that they are using user-generated content. All right, this is episode 345 of The Edward Show. Put in some rich descriptions, put in some photos, get some nice reviews. Maybe, stop lurking on Reddit and post a little bit on Reddit. It's for fun. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye now.